In this video, we're going to help students understand how to edit Neurowiki, how to set up their own lab notebooks, and how to do some of the basic things they'll need for good notebook entries. And we have some help that they can get access to, so why don't we show them that first.
Right, so if you go over to the left-hand nav bar here, you can click on the Course Policies page, and under the Assessment section, we have links to various things that you'll be working on in this class. And one of the links is for the lab notebook. And here we describe some of the things that we expect to see in the lab notebooks you're going to be working on with each problem set on a daily basis. And so among these things are dating your lab notebook entries, describing the experiments that you're doing, answering the questions, providing pictures, etc. Down here at the bottom, we have a walkthrough of the things you need to do in order to get your notebook working from the very beginning. We'll go through that right now. So the first thing you have to do is log into the wiki, and you just need to provide your case details. And now in the top right, you should see either your name or your username, and there should be a link that's red. This is a link to your personal page, and if you click on it, it should have no contents right now. This page is currently, there are no text on this page. So you can click then the Create button,
Okay.
and it should automatically be populated with two templates that we've created for you to make the lab notebook and your term paper easier to organize. If you don't see these, you can just insert this text. If you press the Save Page button, you should now see a whole set of links.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is everyone going to be using these term paper benchmarks?
No. The graduate students are required to complete a term paper for this course. The undergraduates have the option of working on a term paper if they want for extra credit.
Okay.
So for now, you can leave the term paper benchmarks template, and if you're an undergraduate, you can remove it from this page later if you like.
Right.
Okay, so let's say that we're working on the passive membrane properties unit. So what you would do is click on that link, and you're given an empty page. So now what I'm going to do is in another tab, I'm going to open the syllabus and scroll down to the passive membrane properties unit. And here we have text for you to read, and you should understand that before you're working on the questions. And in this unit, there are 7 questions in the middle of the reading, and then when you get down to the bottom, there are several more.
And they're based on the simulation that's shown here.
Right. So let's start with question 1.
Right.
Actually, before that, what you should do with each of your notebooks is include the date. So today is Thursday, August 14th, 2014. And then you would want to include an overall purpose of the experiments that you'll be conducting, in which you're essentially summarizing what you learned in this unit.
Or what you're hoping to learn in this unit.
Yes, yeah. You can always go back and change this after you've completed the problem set.
That's the nice thing about having an editable page.
Right. And now that we've inserted some content into the page, let's see what that looks like. So you can come down here and press the Show Preview button, or you can click the Preview tab up here, and it will show you what's currently on the page. And since we're happy with this, we're going to click the Save Page button. And we recommend that you save your page often so that you don't lose your work.
Good. Now, before we set up the first question, maybe we want to set up subsections.
Yeah. So I'm going to return to editing the page, and what I now want to do is create a heading, and I might, for example, create a heading for question 1, and it looks like this. These equal signs determine the level of the subsection.
So more equals and lower down.
Right, so if I click on level 3, there'll be 3 equal signs. I could say part A of the question if it had multiple parts. Okay, so then the first thing you should do with each question is copy the question prompt and paste it into your lab notebook, and then we also want you to bold it so that it's easy to distinguish it from the text that you're writing.
Right.
So you just need to highlight it and press the bold button, and it will surround it with 3 apostrophes. That's the wiki notation for bold.
Mm-hmm.
So we can preview this again.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. I'm going to save and go back to editing.
Okay. And now you can start working on some answers.
Right, so then you would begin filling in your content.
Good.
Okay.
All right, now let's do a question that involves a simulation.
Right. So I'm going to jump down to later in the problem set. Question 8 makes use of the first simulation. Okay, and it starts here. So again, I'm going to copy the question prompt.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see that these question prompts are composed of multiple questions, feel free to
move them into the different heading levels. Right.
Right. Yeah. You could paste in one question, make it bold, fill in then your answer, and then paste in the next question,
mm-hmm.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm including a header for this question,
mm-hmm.
and then I might paste in the prompt,
mm-hmm.
make it bold once more,
okay.
and then begin answering.
Good.
Now, I'm going to save the page once more. This question makes use of the simulation, and when you're working with the simulation, we generally want you to include pictures of the work that you've done. So in another tab, I'm going to open this simulation, and here it is.
And we ask you to change the capacitance of the conductance, so you can try doing that.
Right, so for question 8, I'm going to have the conductance, and then by pressing the run button or by pressing the enter key, you can
mm-hmm.
run the simulation.
Cool.
And now the plot changed,
mm-hmm.
and what we might want to do is take a screenshot of the new thing. So on the Mac, you can press the Command-Shift-4 keys, and it'll give you this reticule that allows you to highlight a portion of the screen,
mm-hmm.
and it will take a screenshot, and that screenshot should be saved onto your desktop.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using a Windows machine with, say, Windows 7, then you can go down to the Start menu and type in Snipping Tool, and that'll bring up essentially the Windows equivalent of the same thing. Okay. So now returning to the page, I'm going to go back to my lab notebook, and at this point I might want to include a screenshot of what
mm-hmm.
I've done. So I can come up here and press the embedded file button,
mm-hmm.
and now it's going to ask for a file name.
Mm-hmm.
This file name doesn't need to match the name of the file we just created. Instead, it's going to be a unique identifier for this file on the wiki,
mm-hmm.
which means it's important that each of you include your case IDs in the name so that we don't have file conflicts.
Right.
So I'm going to include my case ID, and then I can give this any name I want. I'm going to give it a descriptive name so that I know what I'm looking at. So I'm going to call it JPG18, which is my network ID, passive membrane, since that's the unit we're working on, question 8, half conductance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you also need to include the file extension.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the screenshot was saved as a PNG file. Now, if I wanted, I could also include a caption, and we encourage you to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So we might give this a figure number,
mm-hmm.
and we could say, give this a more descriptive caption.
Mm-hmm.
You can also include a size, so perhaps we want to make this 400 pixels large, and we might want to center it on the page.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally you just press insert, and all it does at this point is create some text
mm-hmm.
that will give you the opportunity to insert the picture. So now I'm going to press the save button, and now we can see the caption and it's centered on the page, but instead of seeing an image, we just see this broken red link.
Mm-hmm.
If I click on it, I'm now given the opportunity to upload the file. Press Choose File, and I select the screenshot we just created. There it is. And I have to make sure that this destination file name matches the name that I just put in on my lab notebook page. If it doesn't match, then you won't see this picture appear on your lab notebook. I just press Upload File, and there it is. Now we can navigate back to our lab notebook either by clicking on this link up here, or you could scroll down to the bottom of this page, and there's a listing of all the pages on the wiki that use this file. So this will be a quick way to get back to the page.
Oh my goodness, there it is.
There it is, yeah. Now, we can choose to edit this section of our lab notebook. And
so
if you
could add a little more descriptive stuff on the figure, or you could even edit some of the characteristics of the figure, right?
Right, so if you decided you wanted this to be a little larger, you could increase the size there. You could add more details to the caption, and then again, preview or save. And there it is. Okay. And then we would like, in the body of your lab notebook, to refer to your figures. So if you've numbered your figures, that makes it a lot easier for you to keep track of which figure goes where. But again, you could describe the results that you obtained and how you obtained them.
And also provide an explanation of what you think the results actually signify.
Right.
Very important. Good.
Okay. So now let's say you were moving on to the next question. You could create another section header. And again, you can type these things in yourself, or you can use the toolbar up here. So let's say that you wanted to collect some data from the simulation.
Now probably you want to save that page.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sometimes it'll be okay if you do that, but not always.
Yeah. So if we go over to the simulation, we'll find that if you place your mouse over one of these plots, you get details on the values of the curve that's being plotted. But we can also save these values by...
Maybe you want to hit the control.
Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, you did it. Okay.
So on the Mac, if you place two fingers on the trackpad and click, it will add a data point to a table that appears down here below all the controls. If you're using a Windows machine, you can just right-click on the plot and it'll insert that data.
Excellent.
You can collect data from more than one plot if you like, and they'll appear in separate tables.
Excellent.
We should also note that you can zoom in on parts of these plots, which might make it easier to grab the data point that you want. In order to do that, you just have to click and drag, create a box around the area you want to zoom in, and there it is.
And now, again, the cursor can allow you to harvest data.
Right. And if you double-click, you'll zoom out again.
Excellent.
So you might then choose to take a screenshot of this table, again using Command-Shift-4 on the Mac, or the snipping tool in Windows. And then, like the screenshot before, you could include that on your page if you want.
If you want. Good.
Okay, so now if we return to our lab notebook, you may want to manually create a table for a question. So if you click on this advanced toolbar button, and then over here there's an insert table button. You can choose the size of your table. Let's say we want it to be 3 by 2, and then just press insert, and it's going to create this template for a data table. So we might go in and change
current
the headers. Yeah, we could do time and current.
Right, time, or voltage is what we're probably going to be measuring here, so that would be fine.
And then in these fields you would just start filling in numbers that you might have attained from the simulation.
That's right.
Or perhaps we might ask you to do a larger analysis in which you collect data from several different simulations. And now if I just save the page again, there's a basic table. If you want to add more columns, all you have to do is add more entries to each row.
Again, using those double up lines, right?
And you need to do this for each row. And if you wanted to add more rows, you would just add another row separator.
Just that upper line and dash, and the hyphen,
and then you can go in and add more data for that row.
Great.
And now I will preview once again.
Looks
and there
good.
it is.
Good.
Okay.
And can we center?
Yeah. So if you want to center your table, one thing that you can do is enclose it in the HTML center tag. So that means before your table, you use the angle brackets with the word center, and then after your table, you use the same thing.
So you switch it off.
Right, right. So this is a closing tag, and it ends the centering. If you forget this, then everything following your table is going to be centered, which you probably don't want.
Probably not.
Okay.
Well, look at that. You've got data, and then you could even add more text if you want to. Okay. And
right.
finally, let's say we've asked you to do some equations. How would you do that?
Yeah. So I might be working on yet another question. This time it asks for some equations, so create a new heading. And now if you want to use math, we again use tags, just like the centering tag. These are called math tags. And the structure is the same. And then what you place in between them is going to be the math that appears on the page. So for example, you could do something really silly like 1 + 1 = 2. And if you preview the page, you'll see that presented as math. Now that's not very exciting because you could have done that in plain text. Let's do something more interesting. Let's say you want to input the Nernst equation, which is a very important equation for this course. So on the left-hand side of the equation, I want to type in E with the subscript ion, which represents the reversal potential for a particular type of ion. So I just have to type E, and then to create a subscript, you use the underscore character. And then enclosed in curly brace brackets, we can put in the subscript. In this case, I want a plain text subscript whose contents is the word ion.
So you have to watch to close all the brackets properly.
Right. And if we take a peek at what we have so far,
oh, nice.
There it is. Okay. Now I want to say equals, and the first part of the equation involves a fraction. So the notation for a fraction in math is to use \frac, and then in 2 sets of curly braces we specify the numerator and the denominator.
I see. The first set is in the first, and then the second is in the second curly braces. Okay.
So then the equation includes the gas constant, the temperature, the valence of the ion, and Faraday's constant. So there are all those things. And then we can include \ln
for the natural logarithm.
log.
Okay.
And then again we have another fraction.
Okay.
And on the top of the fraction we have the concentration of the ion outside of the cell. So we use square brackets for concentration. And I'm again inputting a name for the ion, which is just ion in this case. And then we want a subscript on that concentration, which we designate using the underscore, followed by curly braces once again, lots of curly braces. And we want to say this is the outside concentration. And then in the denominator of this fraction, we just again have square brackets for our concentration, filled in with the name of the ion, and then a subscript on the outside of the curly brackets for the fact that this is the inside
concentration.
Okay.
Well,
and there it is.
Wow, beautiful.
So then you might go on and say equals, and then you could go and fill in the numbers.
And then you could put in your results of the computation.
But for now I'm going to save. Okay. So all of these things, there's lots of details on how to fill in math, how to create tables, how to insert pictures. These can all be found on the help page, which is linked to on the left-hand side here.
And there, all these different things are shown. And if someone needs to do more complicated things, or for example, if you're doing the term paper, you might need to do citations and footnotes. All of that is shown there.
Right. And there are other details for math here.
Right. And again, one of the cleverest things you can always do, you can go to a page of the wiki, for example, parts that are already written, look at the source. Maybe we should do that for just a second.
Sure.
Go to one of the pages that have complicated stuff on it, like there. And if we look at the source, if we click up on, yes, well, we won't, okay, yes, if, you may not be able to edit it, but you'll see the source. And here, for example, that shows how to set up the equations that we were just looking at.
Right.
So you can steal that and use that as a start for anything you want to do, and sometimes it'll just require small modifications. So it doesn't require you to become a master of all this programming to do very nice looking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Good. And of course it ends up being typeset, so it looks very nice, and it's very easy for you to go back and refer to it, and it's much easier for us to review it and make sense out of it. Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.